Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Michelle Adonis, and I'm the owner of Vintage Revival Design Co. And I'm so excited to be here with you for another project this week. Today, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the project. But before I get started, if you do join, I would love it if you would say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. And as we go along, ask any questions that you have, and I'll be sure to be able to answer them live. So you don't have to wait too long to get your questions answered afterwards. Okay, so just ask your questions in the comments. I'll be able to see them, and let's get started. Okay, so today we are going to be working with. I have not had a chance to use this paper before, so we're going to be using the beautiful printer's block paper by Roycycled Treasures. We're also going to be using the numbers stencil, and we're going to be upcycling a frame. We're going to be making a pin board. And so I've already taken a piece of cardboard cut to size and covered this with burlap. And I'll explain more about what else I did when we get to that next step. Hi, Nathalie, and hi, Barb. Thank you so much for saying hello. We have Portland, Oregon, and we have Canada here. So thank you so much for joining. But anyway, so we're also going to be making some little push pins out of molds, and we're going to color them. So that's what's coming up. But we're just going to do first things first. So before we got started, I was just making sure I had everything in front of me so I didn't have to get up and go get something. So I have a wooden frame. It is like about a 12 by 12, I guess, because this is, so the insert is about 12 by 12. And I went ahead and did a coat of white paint. You know, I love that. If you've been following me, it does make your design show up as best as possible when it's applied to a light background. Doesn't mean you have to, but it's just a good idea. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to apply our decoupage paper. Now I'm going to lay this out, and you're going to see that I am going to cut this a little bit differently. I'm only going to need half of this sheet. I believe that the strips will cover. So I'm not going to need this whole piece, right? So just to make it a little easier and less cumbersome, I'm going to go ahead and cut this paper, and then I'm going to show you we're going to cut this just a little differently than we typically do for this. I want to be able to miter my corners, and so I'm going to, doesn't always work so easily to do that. I'm going to tear my paper. So up the two sides, I like that this one seems, I don't know, they both have a lot of color, and it really doesn't matter, but I kind of like that I'm going to get a little variation here where this is a little more solid. So I'm going to go ahead and work with this half, okay? Now what I want to do is, because I'm kind of working with a frame, and I'm going to kind of strip these. I am going to, did I cut that one a little off? I didn't cut quite properly on here. So I am going to cut, I'm going to just cut this part off because I varied off with I'm just going to use my hands. And what we're going to do is we are going to cut a strip for each side of our frame. Okay. So this is going to be my left strip, and I'm going to cut it a little bit longer than I need. And how I'm going to make that a little easier on myself is I'm going to use that, and I'm going to just fold it over a little bit, just like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'll use that line to cut this. I hope this will make more sense. I didn't have to do it. I'm probably overthinking it, but you know, I think that's what I'm doing. So I'm overthinking it a little bit. Okay. So this is going to be for this part. All right. And now what I want to do is cut this top strip. So I'm going to fold over a bit here, but yeah, is that going to work? I don't know what I just did. Okay. I am going to cut, all right, see, I overthought it, so it's really not going to work. So this is what I'm going to do, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and cut 4 strips of my paper. it all made sense till I did this and I cut the paper in half, and then it no longer made sense. So let's start over. So I'm just cutting 4 strips. They're wider than I need, but that's okay. Do I have the 4? I've got, yeah. All right, so let's do one more. I'm going to kind of, I think I want to use something like this. I need them all to be long enough. Okay. All right, so I've got 4 strips. I'll set this piece aside with that other paper. Now what I want to do is start attaching these strips to my frame, but again, I want the mitered corners. So I'm going to, this would still work now, wouldn't it? It would. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start decoupaging these with, but I'm not going to go all the way to the edges. And this will make sense as we get there. This is a little, it's really tight right here. So I'm going to be careful, and I'm going to go ahead and lay this kind of where I think I want this to be. So I'm going to go ahead and start in the middle, but I'm not going to go all the way to the corner. I'm going to go close, but not all the way. So I'm using the 1 Hour Enamel Clear Coat in matte. I love it. You know, that's what we've been using. I'm going to go ahead and apply some medium here. I'm going to go here, and I am going to do my edge as well. So I'm going to lift up. No, I'm not going to do my edge. Hold on 1 second. All right. I really am overthinking this. So hold on. I'm going to use an alcohol wipe, just like that, a little baby wipe kind of thing, but it is isopropyl alcohol. So I'm going to use that to remove that medium. So I'm going to lay this down, and then with my plastic wrap, we're going to do that. We're going to get those mitered edges first, and then we're going to address our sides. Okay. So I'm going to go up a little bit further. Again, I'm going to go pretty close, but not all the way up. Okay. Just to about there, right up there where the corner meets. And I'll smooth that out. And then I'm going to do this other side. Down here, again, I'll go just to where those corners meet, like right there, and we'll go from there. Okay, and so pushing that in place. Now I'm going to take another strip. Doesn't even really matter to me which one I do. Does it? Well, we're just going to go for it and see how it works out. So I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to want that to go to the edge, and I'll have the letters going this way. I think that'll be okay. I'm going to have that go to the edge, make sure that it's going to go all the way. I have a little wiggle room on this one. Kind of get that straight. And I want to make sure it's going to go over my edges. So I'm going to go ahead and start here in the middle. Making sure I get good coverage, but not too much. I don't want to tear my paper. So we want to be careful. And I'll lay that down. Use my plastic wrap to smooth it. Okay. I love this paper, and it is one of the papers that I have not used yet. So I thought this would be, I chose a bunch of papers today. And then I was like, wait a minute, I haven't used this one. So I'm going to lift up a little bit where I went there so I can get my medium. Okay. And smooth that out. And then again, I'm just going to come up right where the corners meet on the inside. Right like that. And push this down. Okay. Let me make sure, did I go up here? I'm going to come up here and do that right here. It might push it up just a little bit, but that's okay. We'll be all right. So just bear with me. There's a method to my madness here. I don't want that to, we'll be okay. We'll just leave that like that. All right, so we've got these other strips, and let's see. My lettering is going that way on this one, so I think I will do the same here. Again, we're going to start in the middle. I think I want those little bits to be in there, and I want to make sure I'm going to have enough to go all the way to the edge. So again, I'll start in the middle. And just lay down my medium. I'm just going to go all the way this time, right here. Okay. And then I'm going to use my plastic wrap and smooth that out. I don't think really painting it white would have made too much difference because this is one of the more opaque papers, but I haven't tried it yet. And I thought, let's just go with what we know with the good practices, and that's to paint it white. So I did. And probably also because I wasn't exactly sure what paper I was going to use. So I'm going to lay this down, lifting this one up, and then we're going to smooth this out. Okay. Just like that. Got a little bit of wrinkling in there, but I'm not going to be too upset about that. We have one more strip. Let's see. Let's use this one. And since we have the orange down there, I'll go ahead and use this one. So again, making sure that it's got enough length. And I'm going to start in the middle. And we're almost done with this part. I'm going to lift this up, just fold it just a little bit. Okay. And then push this down to where that is. Okay. And then I'm going to lift this back and apply my medium here. Make sure I've got enough, but not too much. I hope this works. Let's see if this works. Hi, Janice. Hi, Betty. Hi, Lori. And so now we have pushed our papers in place. So my idea is that since these are not joined, let's see if this works. This is my idea. So I don't know. Let's see. I am going to use a little ruler, and I'm going to kind of measure, use my fingers to kind of see where that hits the corner, right? And then I'm going to use just a little pencil, and I'm going to make a mark. Hopefully I lined it up properly, and we're going to go right to the corner. I hope I did anyway. Okay. And so the idea is that I would cut like this, and now the papers will join and be mitered right here, just like that. So that's so far so good. Okay. And so now I can take this little piece of paper out. My paper isn't bulky underneath. I'm going to lift up just a little bit here. Okay. I'm going to apply this one first and then this one next. And now we've got that mitered corner. And I don't know why that was important to me, but it was. It's not as if they really join up here, but I just liked the idea of just strips not overlapping. And hi, Luann, how are you? Welcome. And so now we're going to do this one. I'm going to do the same thing. This has got a little more paper on it. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this off right now, just so we can get that underneath. And then I'm still going to be able to cut, right? So again, I'm going to feel where my corner is. It's right here. And then where that edge is, right there, I'll make a mark. And then I'll cut through both sheets. Just like that. And I'll take this little piece out, set that aside. And now these are ready to be glued down as well. I've got a little pencil mark on that one, so I'm going to make sure that the other one goes underneath. I've got some edges to work with here. right in here. I'm going to lay this one down first, and this one's going to go over top. Okay. And I'll join this. Did I get enough there? I did not. Okay. And so we've got the 4 more corners. I don't know. We'll see if it makes a big difference or not. And then let's do this one from, and then we've just got the 2 more to do. So this one is also, again, just a little cumbersome. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off so that it goes underneath. You might have to do a little doctoring to get it to fit, but I think it works. Okay. So I'm going to use my ruler again, feel where my corner is right here, and then where it is again here, kind of line that up. The corner is right there. We're just going to do our best. Make a mark and then cut again. Okay, take out the little bits and let's get that down. So I'll do this one, and then we've got 1 more corner and we'll be able to get on to the next step. We'll do our sides. Use my plastic wrap right here. Oops, I wanted that to go on top. So I'm going to lift that up a little bit while it's wet, just to cover my pencil mark, just like that. Okay, and so now we've got that. 1 more, and then we'll finish doing our frame. So here I've got a little, which one do I want to do? If I make my mark on that one, I'll make my mark on that one. So I'm going to pull up just a little bit. I'm going to have to trim off a little here. Making sure I don't cut, just so it lays down flat, okay? You'll get to see this 1 more time. And again, just using my fingers for where that corner is. Lift up. And I didn't get that one quite right. So I'm going to cut. Did I? Let's see. Yeah, I did okay. So here, that one is a little jagged. So I'm just going to use my eraser. You can see that it's got a little jag right there that I don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and just erase that right there, just so my pencil mark doesn't show up. And so now I know I want to put this one down. And then I want to do it here. And now they mark up. So the miters will show up a little bit better. Now what I want to do is I want to give a little relief to the papers in each of the corners if there is one. If it's pulling too much, I just want to give it a little relief so that when we go on to the next step, okay? And so I'm going to cut a little. I don't need too much of this. I could also just paint the inside of this black, which I think I might have to do. So we're going to go ahead and sand that part off and we'll paint that black. But this part, we are going to go around and just hope that I have enough to go over all my edges. I don't on this side, so we'll piece a little bit together. So now I'm going to turn this over and I'm just going to apply my medium on the edges. Okay, and I'll bend this up and use my plastic wrap to put that in place. I'm going to be covering the back of this because the back's pretty ugly. You'll see with the board. And then we're going to do this side. it's a lot. It feels like a lot of piecemeal for sure. Okay. Does anybody have any questions yet so far? Okay, we're going to make sure I have medium. And I'm going to fold that up. And I will have to do a little bit of piecing or a little bit of black paint on this side. We'll see, because I just didn't go far enough like I did on the other sides. So one more, and then we'll do our sanding from the inside. I don't see any questions. I'm going to pull up. Use my plastic wrap to smooth that in place. And then we'll do this side. Almost done, guys. I sometimes try to do so many things ahead of time and then realize that it doesn't give me enough opportunity to demonstrate the process. So I wanted to, I know this is like the little boring part, but it's important to be able to see the process sometimes, right? So then I'll just use this. And we'll smooth that in place. I didn't get enough medium right here. Those corners and the edges, right? They get us every time. So let's do that. All right. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start sanding this back. I have a little sanding block right over here. All right. I'm going to just start sanding. I'm going to start here and go. And that's okay. So I think it's good that we're going to be painting the inside because sanding is revealing a little bit of the white core underneath this as well. So we will paint that. And it helps that we cut those corners because now it makes it easier to get in them to sand back the paper, right? Okay, so we'll do this one. It's a little harder to go on the inside. I might have needed to, I'll do another project where I can actually see more of the design of this paper, but I love it with all the colors and everything. I think it's so cool. You could do this with the frame that you found, at the thrift store, or this one happens to be flat. So it lended itself really well for something like this. Okay, almost done. But you can see it start to come together now. Little piece right there because there's a little bit of a divot in the wood. So that's where that came from. Okay, so we've got those. Now let's do any that we have excess on here. Okay, so now I'm working on the back and just taking any excess paper off the back. Got a little on this side, a little on this edge right here. a little bit right here on the corner. So we'll address those. Let's see where we might need a little help. I've got a little extra right here and an edge that lifted up a little bit. So I'm going to address that before we sand off. Right here. And then again here, another little edge. This little edge is giving me the business. All right. So we're going to go ahead and fold that in and lay that down. And we're almost done with that. Okay. So here's where I've got a little bit of I'm going to just clean up a little bit. Otherwise, everything's going to be sticking all over the place. Okay. And here's where we've got this little white edge, and I didn't take this little corner off. Okay. So here's the piece right here that I have. I can either address this with black paint, or I can just do a little strip over here of the paper. I won't match it up. And so since it's on the side, I really think I'm just going to address it with some black paint. I'll vacuum later, guys. All right, so I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to just double check our sides. I do have a little lifting right here. Ooh, a lot of lifting right here. So I'm just going to come in here, that medium, and then get my plastic wrap out. And that way we can move on. All right. So let's go ahead and address this, and that way it can be drying. But here is our frame, and here are our mitered edges, and they're going to look better once we get a little bit of paint on them. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of black acrylic paint, actually, because that's what we're going to be using for the stencil. And so I'm going to go ahead and use that, get that in water. This here. I will seal this afterwards. So I'm just going to take, it's just basic acrylic paint. Okay. And I'm just going to put a little on here. We're going to stencil next. So we'll go ahead and use that. So I'll just take a brush here, and we'll address these edges. And I'll even let it go a little bit round on the, to come up over the paper a little bit. And so you can see that we're starting to clean that up. And I like that there's a little bit of paint there. I don't mind if some gets on the edges, you know, out of place. It just adds to the grunge of the paper. In my opinion, I like that. I don't need it to be, perfectly straight or anything like that. And this can be drying while we do the next steps. So I found a fun way to color my resin, even though I'm using the I'm using the quick cast resin, the one that sets up in 10 minutes. And I found that I can color it. And so I'm excited to show that with you, and how we will make our own little push pins for this. How are we doing? Everybody's so quiet. You guys are so quiet today. So I'm going to see if I can't make this go a little bit faster. Let me take a little sponge. See if this works. If I dip this in a sponge and then just, yeah, much faster, guys. I don't quite get the, the organic edge, but this is much faster. So you can take a sponge and just go, just put some acrylic paint on your sponge and rub it over that area. And you can use your finger if you go places that you didn't want to go, but this is much faster. So we like that. I don't know why that little brush was a little tedious. It's okay if it's just me, but that's a lot for you guys to sit through. Okay, so I'm just going to use this and do that. And then I'm going to do the corners here where I sanded. And now here's that white area that we had. And all I'm going to do is take this sponge and I'm just going to paint that in. And I'm going to dab a little paint in here. And I'm even going to grunge this up a little more using my sponge and then my fingers. I'm just kind of rubbing that in. We'll just grunge it up even a little more. Okay, let me just double check again. I want to get all of my corners. Did I pick up that paint? All right, I think we are good. So now we've got our frame and we filled in our black areas. And hi, Phyllis, how are you? We filled in the this area right here. Okay, so that's our frame, and I'm going to set that aside because next what we're going to do is we're going to work with our stencil and our burlap. So this is a piece of cardboard. It was brown on the back, and I went ahead and secured burlap to this. Now, the other thing that I did was I coated this burlap with a coat of the 1 Hour Enamel Clear Coat. My thinking being is that if you're stenciling, here's an example of one that I didn't coat with clear coat. So this is a very open weave. And I thought, wow, it's going to be very difficult to get a clean stencil. Let's just go ahead and try. I'm going to go ahead and use this sponge here. I'm going to take some off. And so here is our open weave. It might not make a big difference, but I also didn't want the weave to be a problem and bubble up, and peel and shred and all of that as you're using it as a pin board. So I thought, let's go ahead and seal it and see if it makes a difference, if we can get it a crisp. But I want to give you an example. So here is just a little bit. So it does pretty well, right? It does pretty well, but you definitely have like the open weave. So I don't know if it's necessary, but I tried it. I may have ruined it, but let's see. Okay, so I'm going to set my stencil down on my board, and this is what I thought. I wish I had gotten since it's cardboard, I can bend it. It has curled up just a little bit, and I want that to be more flat. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and line this up, and we're going to stencil this in the black. And I'm going to have to hold it because I didn't use the pixie spray. And I'm just going in a dabbing motion, taking some off of my sponge, but going up and down, up and down. But now the moisture isn't going to cause this fabric to, it's not going to shed or anything like that because it's sealed. So I do think it was worth it for that. But I was still able to get a pretty crisp image on a piece of unsealed burlap. So now you can see I've got that, and we're going to just keep going. So bear with me because we're just going to stencil this whole darn thing. I'll move my hand just to kind of keep it in place. And I thought the stencil would be great because I think it coordinates really well with the printer's block paper. And you can always go in with a little brush if you don't have enough, paint or something like that. You can always go in with a little brush. I also wanted to use the acrylic paint because I didn't feel like it would need to be sealed. If I used the chalk style paint, I could use it, but I feel like it would need to be sealed. it never is its true color until it is sealed. And so I wanted to see, how are we doing on that? We're doing good on that too. I'm going to hold my hand here. And we're going to stencil that. The stencils clean up really well. You can just use a little soap and water. Be gentle with them because some of the bits are a little bit delicate. And so you do want to be a little gentle with them to make sure you're not, you know, pulling back on that. I just moved my stencil a little bit. I think we're going to be okay. If I had used pixie spray, I think I probably could have taken this outside and sprayed through my stencil. That's always an option too. I want to hold that bit down. Okay, I keep moving my stencil. Ugh. Okay, that's why the little pixie spray, it's like a temporary adhesive, is a good idea. But I did not do that before, and it does take just a little bit to tack up. So we'll just work with this. Okay. Yeah, a drop cloth is great to stencil on too. It's smoother. If you missed the part though, I think it's Luann, I sealed this burlap first with my 1 hour enamel. I just didn't want it to start fuzzing up as you use it over time. Burlap can wear down fairly easily. And so I wanted to be able to be sure that it wasn't going to do that. But you can still get the crisp image as I demonstrated on an unsealed piece of burlap. I just think you're going to have a little bit of, you know, the burlap will break down over time. But now it should be really well protected. And you want to go in an up and down pouncing motion. And so you see that we're getting those, we're almost there. Okay, just a few more to do. And I like that the burlap allows you to have a little distressing, so it's not super crisp and clear. And I think that works really well too. Yes, pixie spray is so easy. And if I really should have thought to do that. It would have made this go a lot faster, but it is what it is. So thank you for hanging in there with me, guys. There's always so many supplies to have like right at your fingertips when you're doing these, when you come and do these little demonstrations. And I try to remember everything. And let's see, we've got this. Okay. And then while this is drying, the next thing that we're going to do is color our resin and create push pins for this. Whoops. Okay. I am pushing a little hard. You don't typically need to push this hard, but I am because it is a bumpy surface and I want to make sure that I get good contact with my paint. Okay. All right. Just a little bit more, guys. I'm glad that my husband took our dog out for a walk while I was doing this, because he would think somebody was knocking at the door for sure with all of this banging. He'd be so confused. Okay, just a little bit more. Move my hands like this. And okay, let's lift up and see what we've got. Okay, so that's what we've got. I'm going to go ahead, and I like that very much. I think it's really nice, and I'm not going to have to worry about sealing it. It's slightly distressed, but it's on a rough surface. And so I think that is going to look great. So I'll show it to you. I want to set this someplace where I'm not going to get acrylic paint all over that. And then you can see that when we add our frame to this, that we've got something that looks, it just goes with the printer's block paper, I feel like, okay? So I'm just gonna clean up my hands a little bit, and let's talk about how we're going to make push pins. So for this, what you're gonna want is you're gonna want your resin. I'm gonna be using the amazing resin. It is the, oh gosh, it's the 2-part resin. It is the one that turns white. And that's the only clear resin I had took. I have one that sets up in about 24 hours. And then I have one that sets up in about 48 hours. And I was like, no, we don't have time for that. So I thought, how can I do something? How can I color that resin since it's white? Would it work? I've got, oh my gosh, you guys. Oh, good Lord. Okay. So, yeah, I just don't want to get this in my resin, but I am going to be wearing gloves. So I think it's going to be okay. All right. So here's what you're going to need for this. I'm going to go ahead and set this part aside while we're doing this next bit. Okay. I am going to be using elements from the rosette mold, these tiny little ones. And then I also, for those of you that have the acanthus mold, it also has some little bits that would work for this. So you want something kind of small. And what I have are some little thumbtacks right here. Okay. I'm also going to be tinting my resin with mica or with pigment powder. So because I'm using a white resin, I'm going to want to add quite a bit of the powder to this. I'm going to turn these so that they are close to each other when I'm pouring. So let me show you what I mean. So I've got those. I'm going to set those aside. I have the 2-part resin, and I've got a little mixing cup right here. And mine happens to be with the black. It has like a little sticker right on it or something like that. But anyway, I did finally find one that has the black numbers on it. So that was brilliant because I used to keep marking them with a Sharpie marker, and then I would wash them and it would come off. So I really like these. And these are like little, they're up to 3-ounce pouring cups with a little spout. So I like those a lot. I have a stir stick. So I have my 2-part resin and a stir stick. And so this is going to take a minute. We're going to have to be a little bit patient, but I'll just mix some, and I'm going to pour these because I will use these molds for other things. So I've got my pigment powder, and I have a little popsicle stick that I'm going to use to mix it. I want to make sure that because this is a quick setting resin, that I'm going to work really quickly. Now I'm using the brown, but I am going to shine it up a little bit when we're done. But what we're going to do is go ahead and mix our resin. So make sure that your pigment powder is ready to go, your stir stick's ready to go, everything, because you don't have a lot of time to work with this. I'm going to start with the first part, and I'm going to go into I'm going to go ahead and mix up quite a bit in here because I'm just going to go ahead and pour several since we're doing this. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the 1 line mark. So we're going to be pouring, it's 1 ounce of each. So it's always a 1-to-1 ratio. And then I'm going to use this to measure up to my 2 mark. All right, so it is a little colored right now. And what I want to do is work quickly and stir this. It's going to be a little cloudy. And when it turns clear, again, you know that you are ready to pour. And that is when we're going to put in our pigment powder pretty quickly. Now, because it's white, it's going to lighten the color of this. So you've got to imagine that whatever color you're mixing in, it's going to be lighter because it's being made lighter with the white resin. So I'm pouring quite a bit in here. You typically would not need that much if you're using a clear resin, just a little bit will do. So it's still going to end up being a little bit lighter than I want. Right now it looks pretty dark, but we're going to get to pouring really quickly. So I just want to stir that up and make sure that all the powder is dissolved in there. It's also good to use a mat. I'm going to go ahead and pour. Some of my powder isn't quite mixed. I'm going to go ahead and pour these. I won't worry about that too much. That's more powder than I would typically use in something. And I'm going to use these little dots are going to be our thumbtacks, okay? I'm going to give it a shot and try to stir up just a little bit more, just a little bit before it sets up too much. Now, these are going to take a little bit to set up, and they're going to start. What you want to look for when you've colored a white resin is you want to look for, you're going to see a little bit of white, but let's go ahead and pour some of these. Just want to go up there. I'll use these for another project, and I don't want to waste my resin. So I always like to go ahead and pour just other molds that I can use later on. But you can see it's like a nice dark brown. I'm going to go there. And then I think I've got enough for this one. I can already start to feel my cup heating up a little bit. Do I have enough for this one? Let's see. Just enough. It's starting to set up a little bit. I don't know why. I think the larger ones set up more quickly because they generate more heat, but I'm not completely sure. I've got enough for this little one too right here. I'll do this little flower and this one. So just out of 2 ounces of resin, I was able to get quite a bit. Okay. I do have a little bit left over, but I don't think I've really got enough to do too much. So I'll set that aside. But having a little silicone sheet or something like that to work on is great, because then any residue that spills or anything like that is going to be a lot easier to work with. So here's the tricky part. I'm going to go ahead and take my gloves off. Here is the tricky part. So this one's already starting to set up. This one, I've got my push pin just like this, right? And I'm going to go, it's going to give me a little bit of it's going to resist a little bit when it's ready for you to put your pin in. Okay. And so that's when you want to do that. And you want to have it covered. This one's already set up too much. So you've got to kind of pay attention, and you're going to lift up, and the resin will fill that again. And then we're going to let those sit up. And you want as much as you can to get that resin to fill in, to cover that tip of your pin. And you might have to play with it just a little bit. And then you can always fill in. So it's a really tricky process. So you can see that it's starting to turn a little more like of a chocolate color right here. Thank you, Janice. So it's starting to turn a little more of a chocolate color right there. So while this is drying, we're going to go ahead and seal our frame. And I think I'll just figure out how maybe we can attach it. So I'm just going to gently push these to the side while those are setting up. And then just double check the straightness of my pins again. And then we'll be good, okay? But so it's just the, this color happens to be Venetian bronze. And then when I take these out, we're going to do a little something else to them. This is by Amy Howard at Home, the pigment powders, and you can find several colors on my, my website. And so let's go ahead and seal our frame while we're waiting for this to set up, okay? I'm going to go ahead and get my medium back out, and we'll go ahead and take care of this. And I put my brush in water, so I think I do have another little brush. All right, it's just going to be a tiny brush, guys. This is what I've got. So we're going to just go through that, and we'll seal this just like that. I'm excited to show you the push pins because they're cute. And then we'll just do one more thing to them, and then they'll be ready. And I do realize that what I don't have with me are my glaciers, because I was going to put that in with glaciers. It's what you can attach glass to wood with. You just push them in. So I don't, but at least we'll be able to see it. I'll kind of put it together and we can see it, what it's all going to look like when we're done. But I am going to let these set up. They take just a little while longer, the smaller ones. And I just think it's because the larger cavities can generate more heat and the smaller ones don't. But you'll be able to tell when these are dry because they won't be hot. They will be cool to the touch in the back. And that's how you tell. So we're sealing this. Now that that black paint is dry, just getting a good coat on here. Okay. And then we'll just do the sides and then we'll set that aside. This sets up pretty quickly too. Are there any questions at all? No questions. Okay. All right. What have you decoupaged lately? All right. So I will have the full, when I post the video on Friday, I'll have the full tutorial on there as far as how to cut the cardboard and attaching it with the glaciers and that type of thing. I will not, sadly, be joining you next week. I'll be back again in 2 weeks. My sister is coming from Tennessee and she's spending the week with me. And I haven't seen her in person in so long, just over, video and stuff like that. And so we're finally getting together and we've got a whole week of things like sister things planned. And so I am going to be enjoying her. And can you believe she doesn't craft? If she crafted, I know. I mean, I don't even know how we can be sisters, but we are. And but she doesn't craft. And so there's no way I could get her to come on and do a live with me. And so it is very exciting, Luann. I am so excited to see her. And hi, Joe from Texas. Thank you for joining. And so I'm going to just lift this up a little bit and let's go ahead. And I'm going to go ahead and push this in just like this, just to give you the idea of what this is going to look like as our push pin board. Okay. Now I'm going to set that aside and let's see how our push pins are doing. All right. These are still just a little bit warm. This one got a little crooked, but I think that's okay. It's still going to work. And then I've got this one over here. And so these are, let's see, are these ready to go? I'll go ahead and demonstrate what we're going to do to our push pin. So here's a little one, but this was white resin. And so by adding, quite a bit of the pigment powder, it actually turned out to be a colored resin, which I had never tried before with the white resin. But the pigment powders come in several colors. There's also mica powders. So we could have done like a copper, but I'm actually going to use a little wax. I'm going to make a little copper wax. So I'm pushing the mold up, but look how pretty. And now we have like these beautiful molds that we can embellish. That one is just a little pliable right there. I'll get these out first. Just like that. And now I want to see if these are good. I'm going to see. It's still a little, oh, now it's popping out. Okay. So now we have our push pin, right? And so it is attached in there. It's not going to go anywhere. But now we have our push pin with the mica powder. But so I'm going to see if this one's ready to go. Again, it's a little tricky, but it's not difficult at all. And I think it's so fun. And if you're going to use a push pin, why shouldn't you have if you're going to make a board? So this one isn't quite set up. Okay, so let me show you what we're going to do with these. I need a little piece of cardboard. I'll use the back of this. All right, I'm using a little clear wax, and then I'm going to use a little copper mica powder. This is also by Amy Howard at Home, and it's also on my website. You can create custom waxes with these as well, with your pigments and all of that. So I'm going to take a little bit of my clear wax and put it on here. A little goes a really long way. I've made more than we're going to need today. And then I'm going to take a clean stick and I'm going to take out a little bit of my copper mica powder. We have gold and silver, bronze, and then this copper is beautiful. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix this mica powder into my wax. I probably need a, something. Oh, my palette knives are on the other side. So we'll just keep working with this. Okay. So I'm just going, and you can see how shimmery that gets. Look how beautiful that is. But you can make custom waxes out of clear waxes with mica powders. I'm going to just do a little double mixing here. Okay. And we're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until we get that really mixed in. A palette knife would be great to do this, but you can see when I don't want to waste any, and I'll put this in a cup. When I'm done, I'll put some in a cup. And so I can kind of leave that there, but you can see how shiny that is. And so that's just with clear wax and a little bit of mica powder. So that works really well. And so now I'm just going to use my fingers. I want you to see what this looks like before. It's just brown, but it has that really pretty thing. And the push pin is in there permanently. So that's really good. I'm going to use my finger, and you could use a little brush, but I am just going to go over this brown with a little bit of this wax. And so it looks like the brown gives it, sits in the crevices. And now this push pin is got all of this little sparkle. So let's do one on a bigger piece that you can see, since we're working with tiny little. You don't have to use a push pin. You could use a little piece of a cloth if you want. You could use, a brush. Just make sure that you use a dedicated brush for any waxing. But here we've got this, and I'm just going to take a little, and then I'm just going to go over the highlights of this. I've been having so much fun using all that. I love being able to make something that I want that I don't have right available. There are copper waxes, but I love being able to just make any color that I would like to. And what I do is I'll just go around the edges on this one. I think it's fun to see something on a bigger one. You can go heavier or lighter. You can go all the way around the edges. It just gives a little bit of sparkle. I'll add a little bit more to these berries right in the middle. And so now we've taken that and we've just added that custom wax to that. Okay. So now that's that. That's how we did that. And now let's see how our push pins work in our board, even though it's not attached. I'll turn it this way for you, and you can see I've got my little push pin. And because we worked on cardboard, oops, I'm off camera. Because we worked on cardboard, my push pin just goes right in and comes out. And so there you have it. So I will have the full video up. Let me come here. I'll have the full video up on Friday. But today we mitered corners with decoupage paper, and we stenciled on burlap, and we made custom push pins and decorated them. And you guys were amazing to hang in there with me through all of that. And I'll show you the finished project tomorrow in a picture, and then everything will be ready to go. Thank you so much, Royce. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for allowing me loose on your page every week. I really appreciate it and enjoy it. And okay, so I think that's it, everybody. Again, I'll miss you next week, but I'm so looking forward to seeing my sister and spending the week with her. And I'll be back in 2 weeks. So I think that is going to be the 17th, and I'll be back with a new project and everything. So as always, I'm just so appreciative of you joining me and for your support. Thank you so much. Happy creating, and I'll see you all soon. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.